G'day everyone. Today I'm going to be showing you how to set up a somewhat retro looking scene with lighting and the texture mapping sort of effects, the texture filtering effects and other stuff like that. Let's get into it. So we're just going to start a new Gouraud project. I'm just going to call mine retro scene. Retro scene. Now the reason I started from scratch, unlike I usually do, which is just start with sort of already going project, is we need to set up a lot of sort of global shader settings for the retro plugin we're about to use. So up the top, just type in retro in your asset lib and see the ultimate retro shader collection. So we're going to install that first. So first you want to download it. Hit install, and once it's installed, you want to go into the folder to setup.gd. Alright, so first of all, we're going to save the project. Then we're going to, well, we'll create a main scene real quick. So we've got something in here. Main scene. Put it into a folder called scenes. Bam, okay, and so then we're going to run this setup.gd script. Because it's a tool, we can run it in the editor. So we just go File, Run. Now this is going to restart the editor. I'm going to show you what it's going to do, sort of pragmatically. If you go into Project Settings, and then go to Globals, and then Shader Globals, this whole section's been filled in with the defaults. That's why we do it this way. It's going to come in handy in the future. And I'm going to show you how. So we go back to 3D and let's get started. So first I'm going to just pull in a simple concrete texture. So we're going to create a new folder here. Textures, and off screen I've got this here. So I'm just going to drag it into this folder. And everything, by the way, by Void Tools. If you don't have it, get it. It's incredible. It'll speed up your production by at least twice. So once we've got that in there, we're just going to create some simple geometry. So CSG box. Gonna make this. Actually, we could probably just make this a mesh. We don't really need to worry about the depth because we're not doing anything with a player right now. So create a new mesh, quad mesh. Instead of rotating it, you click into it, and then you go here where it says face Z, and then you would click face Y. And now we're going to make it 50 by 50. And then we are going to subdivide it. So we just need to make sure it's subdivided. We'll probably just go 50 by 50 as well. It might work better with lower numbers. And you'll see why after we get a texture on top of it. So we don't have an environment or anything yet. We don't have a camera. If we're going to run this, it's just going to be a gray screen. After the splash screen, obviously. So I'm going to drag the concrete onto here, and I mean, this doesn't look very retro. You're never going to get a retro look out of this. So the first thing that people usually going to do is go to the material and then go to let's say sampling, and then you might switch it over to nearest to try and get that like pixelated feel. You still got to find it's quite a stretch out. So the first thing I do here is go to the UV1 and play around with that. But this isn't actually going to help with what we're doing. So just get used to seeing something that's sort of stretched out to this size for right now. If we wanted to make this a little bit more legitimate, we would do this in a program like Trench Broom or something with easier light bake mapping, but we'll save that for another tutorial. So here we're going to start using the shaders. So instead of this ground texture like we would use here, we're actually going to get rid of that. We're going to just drag in this basic opaque, meaning it's got no transparency. And once that's on there, you're going to see this change. We can even see these sort of like jagged edges at the edges. Jagged edges at the ends, sort of on these lines. And once we get a texture on top of it, okay, so that was the wrong one. I think we need standard opaque. Yeah, that's right. So the difference is the other one you only get a color. This you can actually put a texture in there. So I'm going to drag the concrete texture into the albedo texture. And there we go. So instantly we start to get that sort of affine filtering PS1 look. And then if we go back to the subdivisions, I'll show you why we subdivided it. Because if we change this to, okay, so 50 by 50 and then 1 by 1. So it's kind of trippy and interesting, but it's not really workable for any purposes. So as we start to subdivide it, you start to see that precision sort of increase. And obviously you're only going to get these weird stretchy things when part of that polygon or subdivision set is off screen. I think that's how it works. I'm not too sure. So we're going to set it to, what do we have it before? 50 by 50? Maybe we'll try 20 by 20. 25 by 25, so it's a 2 meter squared. Just so we can keep a little bit of that effect. Let's see what it looks like at 50 by 50. Yeah, so the effect sort of does go away until you get your camera really close to it. But that's exactly how the PS1 works. So you can sort of see it wobbling around. That's also the integerizing of the vertex positions, which is pretty cool. So now that we've got that in there, we can start focusing on the lighting. So part of what was requested by me was how to put a skybox in. So we're going to do two things. First of all, we're going to start with a panorama, which is one single image, and then we can switch it over to the, what do you call it, the traditional skybox, where you would use 6 sort of images. So this here is what I'm referring to as a panorama. This is actually something that I smashed out of a website. What's it called? This is the website here. So it's called manyworlds.run. You can actually just AI generate a skybox, which is pretty cool. I mean, I just sort of Googled for it, and there were like 5 different websites you could go to. But this one was pretty interesting. I mean, the quality's not that great, but it gives you a panorama. What can I say? So we're going to try and get that in here right now. So what we'll do is just create a node. We'll rename that. It's F2 to rename. Rename that environment, and then we're going to put in a world environment. We're not going to do this the traditional way you usually would with, you know, adding this. Well, we can add the sun. No, we don't want the sun. It's nighttime. It's nighttime where we are, so we don't need the sun. Not yet anyway. It might cause problems. We'll find out. Environment, we'll create a new environment. Background, we can switch this over to sky. Now once we've got the sky in there, we can create a new sky here. Sky material. A new panorama sky material. So then it's asking for the panorama. If we go back and we take our panorama from before that we've downloaded from that website, and then we drag that straight over into there, bang, it's immediately in there. So you're also going to get that lighting effect. You see the lighting change from the sky lighting, we call that, or like an environment lighting. So bam, we've got it in there immediately. So if you wanted to do it the traditional way with the 6 different textures, I definitely recommend grabbing something like this shader here from Gouraud Shaders, the skybox from 6 textures. So what it does is you can insert your front, back, left, right, top, bottom, and then it'll create that for you. But just be wary, this one specifically, there are a few things that you need to read in the comments to get it working properly, especially this little fix here, which is to flip one of the textures around. And then a little bit of advice that I learned here, which is just turn off generate bitmaps in the import settings. So I'm not going to show you how to do that. Actually maybe I will. So we'll just go to new shader material, screw it. This is what it'd look like. So you go new shader, we're going to call this one 6 text skybox, a GD shader, and then we're just going to go edit it, go back to here, copy that over, paste that in here, and now we've got the shader functioning over here. We're going to look at the shader parameters. We've got front, back, left, right, top, and I've also got these split up into little pieces as well. I'm going to show you what that looks like. 2. So these are all the pieces here: front, right, back, top, bottom, left, right. Is that too many? Bottom, top, front, right, back, left. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So who to then drag those in? The first of all, you might ask, how the hell did I get those? Well, you start with the panorama, and then I actually found a website that split them up into these separate pieces. This one's called the Affine Sky Generator. There's your URL there. And so once those are all in there, we can go back to our world environment as sky shader, and then we can just start dropping these in. So we've got front, back, left, right, and top and bottom. And so it functions in the same way. You get that sky lighting, that pink. But we've got a couple little issues, especially with, you can see these seams up in the corners. So that's one of the issues. And also, I think one of these textures is flipped the wrong way around. So we're going to go back to that thread that we were just in. We're going to take this, put this at line, I think it's 28 to 33. Yeah, and that should give us a fix there. Oh, we've got tabs instead of, got spaces instead of tabs. Not good. Bang, bang. Just quickly convert these over to tabs. Don't know if it matters in shaders, but it matters to me. And as you can see, it's still not fixed. So you still got to play around with it. This seam issue up in the top right corner, we can easily fix that by just going to all of these import settings and then turning off the mip maps. We re-import them. Yeah, it's kind of gone. I mean, you're going to need to play around with this. This is why I don't recommend doing it this way. But it is a way to do it, and you still do get that sky effect. So troubleshoot that if that's what you want to do. I'm just going to go back to the panorama. So go sky, new panorama material. Hopefully this. Nope. So we stick that in there. Cool. A much cleaner way to do it anyway, and it's less steps, and it's 2025. So don't worry about your 6 textures, unless that's what you want. I mean, it's still doable. It's just obviously not as easy as it should be. Cool. So we go back over to our scene. Now I wanted to create an indoor scene, but I kind of still want to use that pink lighting from outside. So I'm going to create a CSG box. I'm going to make it, what was it, 50 by 50 by, that's 3 by 50. So we've got 3 meters tall, maybe 3.5 meters tall. How tall is a parking lot usually? Probably not even that tall, honestly. 50 meters is quite big. Oh, that's alright. So when we're inside of a box, you need to flip the faces to make sure that it actually faces inwards, and then we're going to need to give this a material, but we'll just get that concrete material. So this one here, we're actually going to save this ground texture. So I'm going to right click here and go save as concrete. Call it concrete PS1, whatever. Just stick it in there. And then if I go drag that onto here, we're going to get that on the roof as well. So if I were to then let it go, wow, this looks very interesting. It's a very interesting effect, isn't it? The affine filtering. I find that it's just so strange. I see all of this here. We might have to do this in a different way. So I'm just going to make it a solid color for now. Yeah, let's do that. Like just a black or a gray. Yeah, like a gray. So we can keep a little bit of that lighting in there. Yeah, that's beautiful. Cool. So the next thing that we want to do is actually import a model. So I've got a model here from a game. Make some of dance. Here we go. So we should actually have a little bit of animation here as well. Where are ya? Oh, there we go. Damn, how tall does this be? Damn. Oh yeah, so this is actually in the ground. There we go. Beautiful. Now we've got our parking lot. Perfect. It doesn't look like much now, but it will once we get the lighting sort of sorted. So first thing that we want to do here is create a camera before we forget. Camera 3D. You can see it's positioned at 0, 0. But what we want to do is we want to find a nice angle in the editor. We'll say about here. Control Alt M. It's going to move that camera into that position. So then we can preview it. Change the FOV. Zoom in a little bit. And then I'm going to create a new node called camera rig. Going to attach this to that. Fantastic. And now when we spin around the camera rig, we should orbit the player. Well, orbit this man. Cool. You see he doesn't have any like weird PS1 style texture jittering or whatever you want to call it on him, so we're going to add that to him as well. I mean, if we just add this concrete texture to him when we get into the root scene, so we're just going to go editable children here, get straight to its mesh and stick it directly on. And if we move the camera around, you're going to see that we start to get that PS1 effect, that PlayStation 1 effect. The wobbly, jiggly PlayStation effect. Cool. So now that we've got all that in there, I mean, I'm not super happy with the way that that looks. Maybe we can bring in a different character. Skin. Who was a good one? Corey was a good one. So I've got skins for this little character because I use this character in a lot of stuff. Here's a little skin that I made for him. So we're going to import that. Now on base 1, let's hope this is actually the same one that I UV mapped, because I got a feeling it's actually not. So we'll see. I might have to import a different one. Base 1, so we want to get rid of that there, and then we want to create a, no, we want to drag in standard opaque. Yeah, this is the one with the albedo texture, and then we're going to find cos, and we're going to, yeah, okay, so this isn't the one. Yeah, I didn't think so. Guessed. So this is a good lesson in you actually keeping track of. I'm just going to import the better model now. Where's my models folder? Oh, I don't have one. Okay. Models. I'm going to import this one. We're going to have two characters standing there now. Root scene. Oh, what do you want about? Okay, that's the wrong one. Come on, blend. We can import that. It's the blend file, but I'm not. I don't like to import the blend files, especially when we're doing something quick like this, just because it takes a little while to import. Dude, that took like a full minute. That's crazy. Okay, now that it's actually in here, I'm going to stick it in the scene. No, that's the same one, isn't it? Yeah, that's the same one. Models. Cool. So this is the model that I used in Unaccessible. It's the model that I used in DJ Simulator. This is obviously the female model. We can actually turn that off. It's got both of them in there. Female and male. We'll keep the female one. We'll see what the Affine filtering does to those things. Now we want to basically take this here that we were working on here with Corey's skin in it. Where is it? This one here. So I'm just going to copy that. Copy that. And then we're going to paste it over on this bad boy. Right here. Okay, did I copy the wrong one? Yeah, I'm going to copy this. Copy, paste. There we go. So now we've got our character. Sort of wigging out a little bit. But that's fine. I'm going to put them next to each other. And then I'm going to parent them to a new group, and then we're going to move their positions over. Just because I want to see both of them at the same time. Now if we run this, we're going to see our two characters. Now I want this camera to orbit around so we can actually see what's going on. So I'm just going to add a tiny little script real quick for the camera rig. And now what we want to do is in process we're going to get rotation degrees. Yeah, let me zoom this in for you. This is an easy one. Rotation degrees plus equals rotation speed. So we've got to define that up here. Rotation speed float equals 1.0. Rotation speed times delta, just so we don't get any weird little skipping frame drops. Rotation speed, rotation degrees dot y. And then this is something that I like to do if, just so we don't end up with precision errors if you leave the game on for 5 weeks. If rotation degrees is greater than 360, rotation degrees dot y, that should be, then rotation degrees dot y take away equals 360. So just every time it goes over 360, it's just going to take 360 from us. So it keeps us clamped in that range, but it gives us a little bit extra. So if this goes to 361, this will go back to 1. So it'll keep that kind of offset. If you were to just reset this, you would constantly see like a little stagger as it goes to loop around. So this might be too fast, it might be too slow. That's kind of alright, but you can see that Affine filter, whatever you call it, wigging out that texture on the bottom with the concrete just slightly, and then obviously you can see the vertex is snapping into the integerized positions. And all of these things can be edited, fine-tuned and tweaked in the global shader settings, which was the thing that we did first. Yeah, we're going to add a couple little things in here just to give it a little bit more of that feel. So first of all, we're going to go to the environment. We're going to turn on the fog. We're not going to use volumetric fog because they didn't have that back then. We're going to find just a nice kind of contrasting color, something like that. We'll switch this to depth because I think depth works a little bit better. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe exponential is better. So light scattering, we're indoors, so we don't really want to have too much of that. The density we want to be, yeah, quite intense. Yeah, probably quite intense. Did you show you on it on depth? What is going on here? Sun scatter. Yeah, well, we don't really have a sun in here, so we're not going to get any of that. Yeah, look at that. Oh yeah, that looks sick. So a little bit of fog in the back. A little bit of screwing around. Yeah, well, I think this texture on the ground could probably mess around with a little bit. But anyway, I'm thinking that's looking kind of cool. And play around with these settings a little bit. Background, we'll switch it to sky. Yeah, okay, so none of these settings are even doing anything. It's probably because we've got panorama sky. So we can play around with ambient occlusion, which isn't really going to help us here. And they didn't really have that sort of stuff back then anyway. So there's no real point adding that. Yeah, look at that. We chuck some animations on him. Yeah, that looks great. That's it. Now if we want to bring a little bit of our sky back in, we can play around with the sky effect. A little bit. Awesome. But then we're going to start adding lights. Cool, so just to better represent what's going on, we are actually going to add that directional light into the scene. Add sun into the scene, put it into the environment. And then I'm just going to turn it all the way down. So now we can actually start to see our our street lamp sort of light. We're going to make that bigger and better. So what if we make that energy 5? If we go back over here. Yeah, there we go. So we've got a little bit of a street lamp looking thing now. We're going to make that a bit of a warmer color. Yeah, something like that. And now we can just duplicate them. So what's that? 5 across. Outdoor parking lot, love it. So we want to go 10. Another 10. And we'll go 20 here. Cool, so then if we were to look at that, we're going to get some nice little effects. Except these poles here, they don't have that PS1 effect added to them either. So if we go back to here, they don't need to be CSG boxes. They're just easy to work with when you're creating them. So basic opaque, or metallic opaque. Yeah, let's see what that one looks like. I'm going to save this as metal gray, or gray metal. Nice. Shaded parameters, we're just going to make that gray. And then I think we can put like a reflection texture in here. I think that's what that is. So I wonder how dodgy that looks, honestly. Let's have a look. Look at that. So that's our like fake metallic look. A fake PlayStation metallic look. Which is kind of cool. I mean, it's picking up the pink from the scene as well, which is cool. We can then set that to gray metal. Set it to this one and this one here. This spotlight we're going to bring out a little bit more as well. Bam, there we go. Yeah, we're getting somewhere. There we go, that's cool, look at that. Yeah, that looks nice. Beautiful, so we're going to play around with that environment now. We're going to get rid of that sky, we're going to make it nighttime. Let's have a look at that. Oh yeah, that looks cool. And so we mix it up with Gouraud's built-in sky. Let's see what that looks like. Where is it? Sky. We change this to what, a physical sky? Procedural. That'll do. So the procedure I think is based on this. Yeah, there we go. We've got our sun in the sky now. And all of our pink fog absolutely everywhere. So if we were to look at these streetlights again, one thing I wanted to point out is that they're not super optimized the way that they are right now. So what we want to do is actually go into here. The spotlight is here. First of all, make sure that shadow is not on. You don't want shadows. And with the distance fade, just turn it on. I mean, even just the default should be fine. But basically, it just means that the lights are going to fade out after a certain distance. So if this was, you know, like twice as big, 3 times as big, whatever, you're not going to get, you know, a crazy slowdown with your CPUs or anything like that. It's going to stay fairly optimized. I mean, it depends how much crap you add to it, right? So with this draw distance as well, we can change that either in the texture settings. I think it's here. It's like an override. Yeah, cull distance override. Or we can go back to those shader settings and then change the cull distance from here. So we'll change it to 128 just so we get a little bit more stretch on it. We're going to make this 200 by 200 and increase that subdivision. Yeah, and now let's have a run of that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So then we're going to go back to this environment, turn off this light, turn off that fog. No, not just the fog just yet. Find that directional light. We're going to put it under the ground. Yeah. Clear sky. So custom color black. Let's have a look at this. This is another way to do obviously your night scenes, your PlayStation night scenes. We can add a little bit of fog back into that as well if we want. If we want. Clear color. Okay, so it does have to be the sky for it to work. Yeah, interesting. Alright, anyway, play around with the settings. Play around with the fog. Play around with whatever you want. I mean, there we go. We got our like sort of kind of hazy nighttime scene. A little bit bright still. We can turn down the sky energy. So we rely a little bit more on those spotlights. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then we can add, we can play around with this a little bit as well. Just mess around with the options. I mean, that's the most fun part of the post-processing, is just finding a really nice style. Cool, so once we've done that, turn our glow on. Glow is great for stuff like this as well. Get a little bit of bloom. Additive, we can turn down this intensity. Yeah, look at that. And then we get this nice like PlayStation 2 sort of blooming effect. That was on every single game. The piss filter. And then the next thing that we can do is our adjustments. So the brightness, saturation, etc. Saturation, contrast might help with getting some really interesting looking effects. Really interesting stuff. And then another thing that we can do without the glow is, where is it? We've got, where is it? We want the filmic tone map. There it is. So we can change our tone map, so we can make it look a little bit more cinematic if we want. We can even completely screw the colors over. It's all screen space effects, so you can do some pretty interesting stuff with it. I mean, yeah, this is the most fun part, right? Just playing around with post-processing. I love it. With aces, usually go filmic. Just have a little bit more luck on filmic. There we go. Look at that. So anyway, that's how you do it. If you found this tutorial helpful, you can support me directly by checking out my game Unaccessible on DJ Simulator. It's on special right now. Yeah, otherwise check out the Patreon, leave a follow, subscribe. Cheers.